Since the beginning of formal education, humanity has always looked up to our institutions of learning to provide answers to the myriad of problems that we encounter. But how have we fared? If one looks closely, we will see that a day doesn't pass without us hearing about abuse or seeing unethical behavior from various levels of leadership. It is now a common practice to hear of a president that is being impeached because of a decision he or she made. What about what we hear about war? Now all these are happening, and we continue to ask ourselves, how did we get here as humans? And after asking that, how do we move on from here? My experiences with education in various countries from Ghana to South Africa to the US has taught me one thing. I've realized that our educational institutions are having problems performing the roles they were initially assigned to do. Anyway, that's me in action. It's one of the sessions I had in South Africa when I was researching on the topic I'm speaking today. So going back into time, formal education started over 200 years ago. And as we can see, Aristotle has a lesson for us. He says that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. What it meant is that education should be in two folds. If we want humanity to survive, then we shouldn't look at the intellectual aspect. And there are also other lessons that we can take from history. Confucius even put it better. He said there should be a character before the intellect or the mind. And our own political icon, Martin Luther King Jr., has also put it, and that's what it also talks about. Because of this, anytime an instructor, a professor, a teacher wants to impart knowledge, there's something that he or she needs to do. You should ask yourself 3 questions. Whatever you want to impart to your pupils or students, is it going to improve their intellectual capacity? That should be one. The next is, how is it going to affect their social life? That is the affective aspect. And then finally, are they going to be equipped with the skill and zeal to perform whatever they have to do? Looking at all these, we come back to the same question: how come we're not able to go on with the education of the heart or the character education that's going to help make the world a better place? Now, with these examples and my experiences, one thing is clear. Education is now shifting to the academic aspect, not because educators or professors want it that way, but the policymakers and especially governments are putting much pressure on them. Everybody is interested in the test scores. How are your students performing? In Ghana, in our high school, as soon as they write a national examination, all the schools are put together and the results published, while the schools have league table, the first school on the top and the last school at the bottom. No school or stakeholders will want to see a school they're associated with down there. So what happens? They have to find every means possible to ensure that their schools are up there. In South Africa, the lower school has something we call ANA. That's Annual National Assessment. It's a benchmark that measures how learners are performing. And it's mostly in mathematics and English. That's numeracy and literacy. In the US in 2001, President Bush came out with No Child Left Behind. Now, what that was supposed to do is to ensure that minorities and public schools are performing in their par with private schools. Because of this, if a school doesn't perform well, it affects your funding. Going forward, the schools decided, why should we even bother about character education or devote much time to the heart? Because if you train good students, but your results, it's very low, then it means you're going to suffer for that. Therefore, they decided to shift the focus. We have then moved to a place and a time where all we care about now is the mind. So, even at the preschool level, if a child is to be enrolled in an elite school, or even sometimes public school, we give them tests. We all know what GPA means to all of us. But the implication is that we focus so much attention on the mind. And even though we are all born to have a big heart and behave accordingly, relate well with humanity and environment, the prominence we place on the mind means that as we move on, we don't care how things are done. All we want is that we want to make it, we want to pass, we want to get good grades. And this is what is causing a lot of problems in the world. But before you panic, just take a deep breath. There's a new research concerning the heart that I've been following lately. And it's quite revealing and seems to give us some assurance and a way to go. The heart has been found to have a storage capacity. And also there's an electromagnetic wave that means it could communicate with other hearts. So as I stand here, if I look at you, if my heart is developed well enough, then I should be able to feel how you feel because we are connected. In addition, people who have had heart transplant, sometimes, let's say patient A who needs a heart, takes a transplant from patient B, who probably is dying and decides to give the heart. What has been realized that if I am the one taking a heart transplant, I may not have any musical skill or ability, or even language, but as soon as I take a new heart, you realize I now develop that skill. It means the heart is able to store a lot of things, information, and then skill. With this new revelation, it is time to go back to the basics where we started. If the heart is that powerful, it could store and do a lot of things, then why should we wait? The new trend of education is the heart education, the humanity education. We started from the IQ where we were only concerned about the intellect. We want to develop our brain, and even with science, now we are implanting chips. We need to remember fast, a lot of information and give a lot of data. But we all know, if you look at the past 20 years, the problems we face is not because people are not getting quality education or they are not able to reason well. It's simply because people are not connected with other humans, the environment, or the people around them. When we realized that the IQ wasn't enough, we moved to the EQ, that is the emotional intelligence, where we expect that people will naturally connect with their people. Now we know that's also not enough. So the new trend and the way to go is the HQ. And that has been the trend. To me, even if this is going to change, it will take some time because we will get all our solutions here. It's not that we are not aware that we need more than just the intellectual capacity or brain or knowledge. Occasionally we've done the earth education, we've done the water studies, we've done the environmental studies. It's because we become aware that we need to sustain all these so that future generation will also come and benefit. It is therefore important that as an institution, and all institutions of learning refocus their energies here. If we can merge the brain and the heart, then we wouldn't have any problems in the future. You are not going to have somebody, let's say a CEO of a company, who wants to establish business, who only care about the profit he or she is making, without actually looking at what impact, especially negative, that it's going to have on water or the environment. You're not going to have a journalist who might have a diploma, but doesn't care what he or she writes about, and therefore go out there writing fake news, especially if that pays the bills. You're not going to care about the architect who only wants to design skyscrapers because that is where the money is coming from, and not want to design affordable houses so that we will end homelessness and people who don't have shelter. Einstein said this, it's very profound, and it should set us all reflecting when we live here. He wonders why, as humans, we have created atomic bomb. Because to him, there's no way a mouse will create a mousetrap. We knew this is going to end our lives, but we continue to do that. The big powers in the world continue to put more weapons in the arsenal. And every day we hear people warmongering or touting other countries. Where do we want to take the world to? And what sort of education are we looking out for? Before I take my seat, developing a program or a curriculum that will enlighten the heart is not difficult at all. It is very simple. In a way, we could just have something like moral case study, and at our level, let's say a places of higher institution, where people will debate, and then it could be guided. So that by the time people graduate from university, they don't just go with their diploma and their academic knowledge. They truly go with something more profound and deeper than that. So as we live here today, let's all see how do we use the knowledge we acquire in every levels of education to benefit humanity, because that is the way to go, and that is what is going to save us. Thank you.